Everyone, my name is Fausto Pugliese, and I have another paisan, a friend of mine that is new to the show. We got Scott Pulcini here, and right back from the old school. He's from Calabria, just like me, which is great. Just talking to him a little about it. It's so funny how, traders, a lot of Italians are traders. It's kind of weird to talk about that, Chris. But I mean, Scott, it's awesome. But thanks for coming into the show. I know everyone wants to hear your story. And we have a lot of options traders here too. And it's something that people want to know. Why should I do it? Why should I not do it? But how's everything going? Where do you live right now, Scott? Where you logged in from?
I'm now in right near Scottsdale, Arizona, just outside Scottsdale, Arizona, called Cape Creek. I've lived in Chicago for 45 years, so got out of there about 9 years ago now. It's shocking that it's that long ago, but love it here. Play golf basically 4 days a week, and the weather is it gets hot, but I'd rather take hot over cold any day.
So how did you go from Chicago all the way to Arizona? I mean, like, how did you go from one thing? It's like us, I guess it's like from New York and people going from New Yorkers going to Florida.
Right. Yeah. My wife had gone to graduate school here at U of A, so she had lived here prior, and she was begging me for 10 years to move here. And then, my daughters at the time were little, 8 and 4, and I knew it wouldn't devastate them, even though it did a little bit, but not like I'm pulling them out of high school or something. So I'm like, what we can do. And at the time when we moved here, I actually was even out of training. I was in medical sales. I'll tell that whole story. But and I knew I'd eventually get back into trading. I hoped, and you could do that anywhere, obviously. So I'm like, okay, let's give it a shot. Yeah, I'm never ever moving back to Chicago. I can tell you that.
Have you been back there at all? Just out of curiosity, have you seen?
Yeah, I got a bunch of lifelong high school friends and college friends. So yeah, I've been back there a few times, but every time I go back, I realize why I'm not moving back there. Between the traffic and the weather, crime, everything else. So yeah, I'm good here.
Oh wow. I was there. I was just there not too long ago. I was there about 6 months ago, and let me tell you, it has changed a lot. You know what I mean? I mean, it definitely. I've noticed a lot of companies have moved out. I mean, the CBOE is almost like probably gonna have bar mitzvahs and weddings there soon. I mean, is this yeah, I mean, everyone, because I guess everything's more electronic and it's just easier to do trades. Where the exchanges make less money, make more money doing that, and they kind of opened up for everybody. It's just like what we do in when I was a market maker, and you see the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, after what happened, Hurricane Sandy, they made everybody remote, and they're like, well, we need everyone back for it. It just doesn't even pay.
Right.
So, but I think, Scott, what I think a lot of people here would like to get to know a little bit about is a little about your story. I always like to get to know, and everyone to know, that we're just human, just like them. Everybody wants to do what you did, how you got started, how I got started. So could you tell the audience a little bit, how did you get involved into this business? I mean, like, I know you're living in Chicago. Like I tell everyone, this is like New York. Everyone here is in the financial business, or you knew somebody in the financial business. But tell us a little about your background, your experience, lessons you learned while you keep things, what made you where you are today.
Yeah, so I started back, my grandfather got me in the stock market back in the day. This is back way before the internet. This is like late 80s, right? And we would, you would literally wait for the newspaper every day to go over your stocks, right? So he kind of got me, he owned a couple stocks and he got me interested in it. And then, so we would do that for a while. And I entered this AT&T investment challenge when I was in high school. And, by pure luck, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I finished like top, 0.1% or something. So after that, I was hooked. So I went to college and I majored in business finance, and I wanted to, do something. I didn't know what my options were, and I studied to be a financial advisor. So I actually got a paid internship at Smith Barney, the Sears Tower, and I was on that route. And then it just was too boring for me, right? I didn't want to, I didn't want to do sales, and I wanted to be where the action was. So I went from there, and my buddy got me a job at the Chicago Board of Trade as a peon runner, making literally just running orders back and forth between the pits, making $200 a week at the time, right out of college. So that's where I basically got my start. And I was down there for about 4 years, and I, graduated up to ARB clerk, and I was in the biggest pit, the bond pit, 30-year bond pit. the most stressful job you can ever imagine. I mean, you think trading stressful? This is like a massage parlor. I talk about it in the book with the Dr. Brett Two Enhancing Trader Performance. I use the same quote. I mean, trading versus the pit, because the thing is, when you're in the pit, first of all, it is just mayhem nonstop. It wouldn't, it's not even really around anymore. It's before electronic trading. But I mean, you get orders, these guys firing orders at you, and they're trying to be all cool with their hand signals, so you don't really see what they fired. If you make a mistake, you blow your broker out, right? I mean, if I see something wrong with the quantity or the price, I can cost my broker, $1 million in 1 second. So it's like you have that stress of performing. It's like, so once I got out of there, I was battle tested. Like, it didn't matter what I saw on the screen. So there's nothing compared to the pits in Chicago, in the Chicago Board of Trade.
But what made you specifically pick, get into the futures, specialize in the futures market?
Right. So from the Board of Trade, I had a couple buddies my one buddy got me the job down there, and then I had a couple other buddies that worked down there. And one of the guys down there that I didn't know at the time, he started his own trading firm called King Street Trading, and it was one of the very first electronic trading firms because it was just when stuff was going on the screen. So I begged my buddy to get me a job at this trading firm, because I knew, that it was my calling. I wanted to do it. So I got there, and there was no education back then. I mean, nothing. It was literally sit you in front of the screen. Hey, the guys here are trading. Check it out. See what market you want to trade. So I sat down. My very first day, I was put in front of the E-mini S&P and futures, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just literally scalping back and forth one lots. My very first day, I lost $2,500 scalping one lots, which is almost impossible to do. It's not like I was holding them for 50 points, right? Like in and out, $12.50 every time. You know how many times you have to be wrong to lose $2,500? So
oh my God.
I almost got fired my very first day there, literally, because I think my limit was like $2,000. I think I went over $500 or something. But so that's how I got my start there. And I lost every single day for my first 2 months, every single day. Like any day I could have been fired. The only reason I even held the job is because my buddy was good friends with the owner.
That's very interesting that you bring that up. And and a lot of people here probably would love to know that, because we have a lot of people that, like, whatever, they lose their job, or they want to, the retirees, they want to get into this business, and they think it's easy. You know what I mean? Like, they just think it's easy. And I always tell them that you're going to lose in the beginning. It's normal. I mean, the whole idea is not to lose a lot and not to get too cocky and greedy. And, in your situation, I mean, what happens to me, you just get pissed off. You know what I mean? Like, you could do it, right? You could figure it out. But I think that's where a lot of the psychology and discipline comes in. Like right now, like if I lose money, if I lose a lot, it's not a big deal. If I make money, I don't go out and blow it and pop champagnes with my wife and stuff. It's a living. This is like going to work.
Right.
So, and I think that's where some people don't, they drop off and kind of learn the hard way. Because I know you're an educator too. You got your own trading room, and I know, and one of the things I really liked about you is that you use a lot of platforms that I use, like the book map, and we'll talk a little about that later. But this is the problem I think people here need to hear from you. You've been doing this for a long time, okay? And you lost miserably in the beginning. What made you stick it out and get to where you are today? How did you get past that hump and dig yourself out of that hole?
Right. Well, there's been multiple holes, right? So, I dug myself out there. It just, so right when that happened, when I was, in the midst of my losing streak, it was 2001, August of 2001 to September. And then 9/11 happened, and I had to, they closed the markets for a week, the American markets. So I literally was coming in the middle of the night trading the German DAX just to figure out something, try to figure out some kind of patterns and so on and so forth. So when the markets opened back up, I had an inkling like this would work in the mini S&P, right? This strategy, or what I was seeing with the order flow, and I was trading the dome. I was a pure scalper, right? So, and again, most traders gravitate to scalping, even though it's almost impossible these days because the algorithms are way faster than you clicking a mouse. But back then there were no algorithms, or very few. So I gravitated towards scalping, and I started to, like, one day it just clicked, right? And I'm like, I got it. So remember, the same guy was about to fire me. I went in his office. I knew I had it, and I just started making money, like small, like trading relative small. Like I was making 500 or 1,000 a day, And I went in there and I made him a bet that I would be the number one trader the following year. The guy almost laughed me out of his office, right? So he's about to fire me, and I go in there. I'm still not really even making money, and I told him I'm going to be the top trader. The top trader the year before had made $2.4 million. His name was the Big Cheese. So I basically made him a bet. We bet a golf trip on it that I would be the number one trader in 2002 because I just knew I'd figured it out. So again, I took all those beatings, and then some. I watched enough market action where I started to see the patterns, and then it clicked. So then lo and behold, I got number one trader the next year. I made my first year, I think I made, or 2002, I made 2.8 million, and I dethroned the Big Cheese, and then I was the top trader at the firm.
So how long did it take you to get past that hump again?
That, again, I lost every day for my first 2 months. I'd say it took at least 6 months, and that's until I was really starting to get it right. That's still a short period of time for traders to really,
without education. You basically just kind of learned on your own in the hard part.
Right.
If you actually took a class, back then, if they had classes, would it have taken that long? Or
yeah, probably. Even today, like I tell traders, it's gonna take some time. Some guys get it right away, but most of them don't, and you gotta work at it. It's like anything else, right? It's like anything else in life. Like, if you're gonna learn how to fly a plane, do you just hop in the plane and take off and hope you don't crash? No, you take all the flight simulator and got to go on all these flight, these test runs and everything else. So you got to temper your expectations. What's great nowadays, though, that they didn't have back then. Like back then, you had to hook up with a trading firm or you were out of luck, or you had to trade your own money and then lose it. Now you have all these trader funding companies where you can get these trades in practice and not be blowing full accounts. You're just blowing a fraction of that. So that's a gift nowadays. A lot of them, they have all these stringent rules, but you can at least get in there and practice with some skin in the game, because there's a difference between practicing on a simulator where there's nothing at risk, there's no emotion, versus, the emotion of losing money and watching your trades whipsaw back and forth on you, so on and so forth. So again, I took off there, and, I can get into the years that I made, millions of dollars. And then 2007-ish, it all stopped like on a dime, right? I went from literally making millions of dollars to I couldn't make a dollar overnight. And that's right when there was the advent of the algorithms coming in, all-time low volatility at the time. And I couldn't make money anymore, literally. But it was the whole firm too. My firm at the time had like 70 traders, and one by one, guys just couldn't make money anymore. And then I was one of the last like 12. And then 2007, but we came to a mutual agreement, because I think I made 15 million bucks between 2002 and 2005, 6-ish. And then I gave back like $1 million, and they didn't have the tolerance for it because the whole firm was imploding, right? So it was like, they didn't want to back my size anymore. And I was a big trader, and I wasn't okay cutting down my size. So I'm like, fine, I'll go out on my own. Well, that's another lesson you learn, when you're trading your own money and you have to live off of it, it's a whole different ballgame, right? So
and that's what people do now.
Right. So it's especially they're doing it while they're trying to learn, like we were just talking about. So it's almost impossible, right? So I got knocked out of the business 2013. I finally had to say uncle. Couldn't make money anymore, not consistently, right? Not like elite like I was. And I went into medical sales. So I went from being king of the hill to being in doctor's offices, waiting to go in their office and kiss their ass to buy some of my products, right? And they all treat you terrible. Like, so many times I wanted to tell them, like, you realize I made more money in 3 years than you're probably going to make in your career, but I got to, have you treat me like some, little peon. So the point is, I'm very, it's been a very, what's the word?
Roller coaster?
Humility, right? Like, I was brought back down to earth real quick, right? So, I'm grateful for what I went through. It's made me a more resilient trader now, but it was rough, man. There's a saying out there: there's nothing worse than never having money at all versus having it and losing it. Because when you have it and lose it, you know what it feels like, right? When you never have it, you don't know what you're missing. When you know what you're missing, then it's even more painful. So I've gone through the ringer. My wife, she's been with me all these years. There was a joke back then, right when I started going downhill. I said, you thought you married Superman and you got Clark Kent. It was like a joke. It was like a joke, but then it wasn't funny after like 5,
funny anymore, right?
15 years. Right?
Yeah. But you know what? I always tell everyone, listen, we all do great at one point. We do phenomenal. Like I had a friend of mine that was a unbelievable trader. He made so much money trading, but I could never compete with him. I found my sweet spot. After a while, like there's only so much you could be so big. And then what ends up happening, like I had a friend of mine that he would trade like 50,000 shares of Rambus. Like he was in these, $1 million positions. I mean, I could never do that. And then what happened, we had the market that crashed. He was installing a roof in my house. You know what I mean? Like here's a guy that, was buying Ferraris, and now he's working for $250 a day because he just kept doubling, tripling down. And I think I tell everyone, I like yourself, you're going to go ups and downs. You just got to know how to survive through them and make and learn from it, because it's going to happen. You're going to have crashes in the market. We saw what happened with COVID. You've been around as long as I have. I mean, you've seen the internet bubble. You've seen, the financial crisis. I mean, you've seen 9/11. We were closed for all those days. You just got to be able to, survive it. And you're going to have another one. There's going to be another one coming up soon. Whatever it is. I mean, it's good.
Exactly.
Like whoever thought.
Right. You got to learn to evolve with the markets too. Like for instance, what I'm doing now, and I'll show you guys a little bit of what I'm doing, but with the stop iceberg CME, the MBO enhanced data, like it's the most powerful edge I've ever seen. But, you have to adapt. For instance, I've been more and more utilizing these options because these 0 date to expiration options and the futures and the stocks are exploding. So it is literally driving these futures markets, every move in the options flow. And I have a company that I watch for the live options flow. The markets are doing the exact same thing. So it's not the markets are driving the options flow. It's the other way around. So the point is, you've got to learn, like, okay, so I've never used this stuff, right? So it's like, okay, now I got to start using it because it's definitely affecting what's going on in these markets, right? So that's what I mean by you got to be evolving in your trading and not just, keep trying. If something's not working, you keep trying to put that square peg through the hole, through the circle, right? So you got to evolve. It doesn't mean I just completely trash my whole system, but I got to be aware of other stuff because things are always changing, and that's what trading is.
Scott, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's also another issue. I think a lot of these listeners have the same issue. They spend all this money on training, or they try to do a style and it just doesn't work. You know what I mean? And I tell them, it's like, listen, I know you love the industry, but just try another style. You know what I mean? Maybe options don't work for you, but you could trade stocks, or maybe stocks don't trade. Maybe you trade futures. Like I had people like, well, I spent all this time and work on it. It's okay, because you can always take the psychology part of it, the discipline, the money management part of it, which leads me to that next question, Scott. That happened where you went from being a medical salesman to back into the trading. We were talking about it. You used one of the, and this is how we basically met each other, is we kind of used one of the very same platforms, which obviously did change my style, which is like the book map. I call it level 4. Now, you can tell me a little about how did that change the way you look at trading? Because a lot of people, like I train at 10-hour events, and all of a sudden they see us, like, oh my God, it makes sense.
So, right. Well, it makes sense because it shows you the volume in the market, and that's what drives markets. Like, if you're not understanding volume in the markets, you just don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, period. Volume drives markets. Price does not drive markets, right? So Dr. Brett Steenbarger, he's a sorry, you're going to be hearing that when you see you'll see what I'm watching here. It's talking to me. This is Bookmap actually talking to me, letting me know about these events. But anyway, Dr. Brett Steenbarger is probably the top trading psychologist on the planet nowadays. He actually was at my trading firm back when I was making those millions of dollars, and he was at the time writing the book Enhancing Trader Performance, and he asked if he could sit behind me for a month, 2 months, 3 months to see what made me elite. Not so much my strategy, because he couldn't even figure it out, because I was just flipping orders in the order book, right? I was a pure scalper. Right. But he just wanted to see like what I did that made me elite, because the book is also about elite performers, not just traders. Like Michael Jordan's in there, and these classic pianists and stuff like that. Like what makes people elite? So I said, sure. So he sat behind me, and I'm throughout that book, and I'm the entire afterward. If you want to read my story of, that's when I was killing it, and right when that book was finishing, that's when I started my downfall. So that's in there as well. So anyway, once I got out of the business, he knew I kept in touch with him over the years. He, I invited him to my wedding and everything else back in the day. And then he knew I was out of trading. And then I got a call 2017-ish, and he said, you want to check out this software called bookmap.com. It reminds me on how you used to view the markets when I sat behind you when I was writing that book, like how you used to visualize this stuff. And the minute I saw Bookmap, I'm like, I'm back. Like, this is exactly what I need to see, or how I need to view the markets to understand what's going on and compete again. So then I got hooked up with Bookmap through Dr. Brad, and I started doing whatever. And I didn't even want to trade futures because I was so jaded, right? From being multimillionaire to zero, I was going to trade stocks. So then I was focusing on stocks, studied a little bit with SMB on the stock side because Dr. Brad was he was working with them too. And I was going to trade stocks, and I did. You can check out my earlier webinars from 7 years ago. They were all on stock trading and what I was seeing with this volume in the markets, just using Bookmap. And then they came out. The CME came out with this enhanced data, this MBO data for the futures, and Bruce from Bookmap kept telling me about how ridiculously powerful it was, and I'm just like, I kept putting it off, and then I finally started watching it, and I'm like, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I need to go back to futures. So then that's my transition. I got back into futures trading, and then again, I'll show you some of these events today. There's actually one that just happened here in NASDAQ. It'll be good for your viewers to see. But once I saw this, I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta take advantage of this. I've never seen anything like this as far as like the power and the edge. And here we are 8 years later, and it's just as powerful as it was day one. So again, if you're not using this information, you could be a profitable trader. Don't get me wrong, but you just don't have all the information. I would think you would want to see this when I show this stuff. You're gonna like your followers are gonna see like, wow, that's pretty incredible. Maybe I need to have this on my chart.
Well, I tell everyone, Scott, the difference between us and the other traders on the other side is everyone always likes to teach what's called the left of the chart, right? And they all like to use these indicators and everything else. I said, well, I teach what's called the right of the chart. Right. And the right of the chart are the orders. And people are like, there's a right of the chart? They're like, yeah. I mean, like, I was actually one of the beta testers. I was a NASDAQ market maker, and I was a beta tester and helped develop the ECNs when they first came out. So it was like basically the start of it, all these ECNs, 'cause that's what it is. That's why you don't see market makers out there on level 2 anymore. You don't see any orders out there. Now they're just routing it through the exchanges. And what's nice about that is that you could see those orders. Now I'm really fascinated to hear, and we're going to share it with everyone here, because I do more equities and cryptocurrency. I'm really curious to see how the futures looks like on it, how you see it. So why don't we share your screen? Okay. And show everybody a little bit on the future side, because we got a lot of futures traders. Oops, you look like you X'd out of it.
Oh, whoops. Sorry. All right, that should work.
There you go. Let's share it, and let's see how you interpret it on a futures platform.
Right. So again, when I got back into the business, we didn't have any of this stuff. So a developer in my trade room actually figured out a way to draw these events. We'll go over these events, but none of this stuff was here. All I really saw was the heat map and the liquidity, and all this is showing you what's actually going on over here, right? So just when I saw that, I knew I had a chance to compete, right? And then this enhanced data came out. So what this is showing you here, and you can see how this market reacted right when this came in. So this market had its high. So imagine if you're long, right? And you're like just staring at a bar chart. You're staring at this thing and you're like, and this is what most traders are doing because they don't have all the information. They're like, wow, this thing's ripping. Again, talk about the not trading the left side of the chart. Pretend that's not there, this pullback, right? So let me make sure it was long there. I just want to make sure I get out of this trade if it stops me out. Yeah, okay, I got it. So anyway, you're looking at it, you're like, wow, this thing is just going forever. Like, wow, this is probably coming back up here. It's already through that structure there from the other day. I want to be long. I want to hold this long. Well, if you have this enhanced data, somebody said, no, that's about it for right now. That was sell ice, right? So icebergs are hidden orders in the order book where they only have to display a certain portion of their order. And it's usually the big money because the thing is, because the algos run the show, and you can see these algos in here, this liquidity, see how it's lighting up. That's just these algos playing games with the order book, right? Well, if a big money comes in here, for instance, the sell iceberg here was 157, right? So that's pretty big order relatively when you look at the order book, right? There's a bunch of 10 lots and 20 lots. Well, if a big firm or an entity drops in 150 in the offer, these algos will run it away trying to make this entity chase the order because they know they need to get filled, right? That's why they dropped it in. So then that's the game. They run it away from them, and then this person has to chase it down to get filled. Well, the CME now allows a certain type of order. They've actually always allowed it. Even back when I was trading, I didn't know about it. But it's an iceberg order where you only have to display. So say they want to sell 150. Well, in the order book, all they have to display is like, I think it's 10%. So they just have to display a 15 lot. So you can imagine it comes up there. Someone thinks they're going to sweep a 15 lot, and there's another 135 behind it, and it's like hitting a wall, aka an iceberg, right? So the point is, somebody big sold here. It doesn't mean paper is not always right? We have trades for, and I have conditions to tell me whether they're more likely right or wrong. But the point is, you want to know if you're long here. You want to know, first of all, now in these yellow boxes here, and these orange spikes here, those are stop runs. So on the way up, stop runs are usually retail traders puking out of position. So you know that's usually not initiative buying in its own right, right? So it's like, okay, this wasn't real buying. I didn't see any buy icebergs here, right? Big money buying. So not only do I know that's usually just traders puking, that's not initiative buying, this guy's getting out. Then you get the sell ice up here, which says this has got a very good chance of turning over. And that's exactly what happened, right? And then you add in the other things that, again, are new in my trading, these options, these GEX levels, right? So how important is it? Again, if you're just staring at a bar chart, you have no idea this is here. You know the dealers have to hedge at these areas. And then you have sell ice coming in. So a big entity selling up here. Don't you think you want to know that if you're long that this stuff's happening, right? Yeah. So that's the whole point. Like you can be a successful trader without this information, but you just don't have all the information. So this is the core of my trading. And again, I'm adding more and more of this option stuff. And this is a great example. This is spot gamma. So this has been running the show, and here we go again, right? So this is the hero indicator, right? So you can see here. So this, let me turn this one off. So you got the zero expiration you can watch, but this is real-time order flow. It's from spotgamma.com. So you can see the minute this thing is, so if this thing moves notionally $1 billion, that's a lot. It affects the market. This thing just turned over, went $4.5 billion to $1 billion. So this turned over almost $3 billion, and you can see, and this has been happening every single day. And I can't believe I wasn't ready. I told my trader this morning that I was going to put on this trade right around 10 o'clock. You go to my Twitter feed. I posted 5 of these in the last week, right around the 10 to 10:30 time, and that's when the games start to get played. They load up these options dealers, and the options dealers are getting loaded up. So that's this blue line, purple line, whatever the color it is. I'm colorblind. And then the dealers have to turn around and hedge in the futures. So they get loaded up, and they have to hedge in the futures. So again,
wait, say it again. You said, explain it to. What do you mean by hedged? Because some people don't know what that means.
So the dealers are delta neutral, right? Or they're not position traders. They're looking for this small little edge spread in their trading, right? So they're not taking positions. So if they get loaded up, this is what this is telling you. This blue line, meaning they are being loaded up buying options. So somebody is either selling calls or buying puts. Well, they're on the other side of that, so they're long, right?
Right.
So they need to turn around and hedge in the futures to hedge themselves. So again, this is the biggest options complex on the planet, the S&P 500, the SPX, but this is including all of these in this thing. But the point is, the Nasdaq does. I can show you the ES too. It did the exact same thing, right? The exact same thing. So the ES just sold off 20 points on this exact move. This has happened every day for the last at least week, and it's been happening nonstop. Go to my Twitter, like I said, right? So the point is, the dealers get loaded up. They got to turn around and hedge in the futures, right? So wouldn't you think you'd want to know, hey, wow, look at that. So we got sell ice up here. I know this wasn't real buying. Then somebody came in and sold a ton. Oh, look at the hero, the real-time options flows turning the other way. I probably want to get out of my longs here. So this is what I mean by understanding what you're not seeing and what's driving markets as far as volume, right? The iceberg came in and the options stuff is coming in. You got to know that. If you don't, you're just sitting there like a sitting duck. I did buy this, and I got sidetracked on this webinar. I literally would not have bought this because this has been the game the last literally like 5, 6, 7 days in a row. They do it every day. So you can see here. Look at it. This was all my complaining, by the way. Here we go. Well, this was yesterday. Well, would you look at? I'm sorry, that was the 27th. This was yesterday. Here comes some buy icebergs, right? So we'll look at this here in a second. This was yesterday. They did it right at. Hey, look at that. This chart is Eastern, right? So that's 11 o'clock-ish Central, and that's my time on this. I'm on Pacific because I'm in Arizona, right? They turn it around. There's your notional move. It went from 2 billion to plus 2 point. Look what this did to the mini S&P. Moved it 40 points. So you've got to know this information, and this is happening every day now. But anyway, here we go. So this is real-time info. What do I see here? I see buy ice coming in at a major GEX level. So I know the big money's buying here, and it's actually been coming in here this whole time. These just weren't threshold events, so I should be expanding this to include all this. But the point is, don't you now if you're short, right? So if you're short, wouldn't you want to know, hey, wow, somebody's buying here. Oh, wait, here's a GEX level. There's a gamma level where option dealers are probably going to be hedging, or they will be hedging. Then somebody big's buying here too. You probably want to know that to maybe start lighting up on your shorts. See what I'm saying? So this is the information that most traders don't see. It's the best edge I've ever seen in my trading career ever, and I've been using it for 8 years now.
What could you imagine having this technology when you were starting, when you were a floor trader?
I tell my room all the time, if I had this, so I made, in my head, I made 15 million bucks between 2002, 2005 for my trading firm. I got half of that, but because you're split with your firm. If I would have had this information, I probably would have made 10 times that, and I'm not exaggerating, right? Because you can see, like I didn't know what I didn't know. Most traders on this webinar don't know what they don't know. Now that you see this, you're like, oh my God, I had no idea this stuff was going on. Yeah, right. So, and you can see the blips here on the sub chart. Again, this zone drawing tool will draw thresholds. So I have certain amounts that I will trade off of, like NASDAQ's 150. So it won't draw this zone unless the event was 150 or more. You can see there down there in the bottom left. So this one iceberg that just came in was 177, but there were a couple other ones on the way down here that were close to threshold. So I can include those. So every time, so you can see the sell bubble here triggered the buy ice right here. So I just moved that zone up to there. So this is the current zone where some big entity bought 140 or 120, 140, 170, right? So this area has a much, again, trading is percentages and edges. It's nothing is for certain, but the probability of this holding is much greater now because of this big buy ice coming in. And you also have a big gamma level here where dealers like to hedge too. So you got two different things that this can show as a support area right now. Again, if you don't want to know this information, then you're not going to probably do well in trading.
Yeah, I mean, like now, one person was asking a couple of questions in there. It's actually called Bookmap. I'll give you guys a link in a little bit in the next few moments. But the thing is, just everyone, please keep in mind, we could tell you where to get this stuff. The worst thing that could happen to you is that you go there and then you get it, and you see all these lines. You need someone to teach you how it works.
Right.
Because just like Scott said, Scott's like me, a little bit like me. Scott, how many times you ever got solicited? People said, try my software, try this, try that, try. And you're like, oh my God, here's another one. Here's another one. Right. If it wasn't from one of my students, one of my most successful students told me about this. And the last thing I did was like, and he was a good trader, and he says, Fausto, this is exactly how you trade. He goes, and he was like adamant coming after me and telling me. And I told one of my instructors, Josh, I said, Josh, could you look into this and see what he's talking about? And within 30 minutes, he ran into my desk and he says, Fausto, I'm going to teach you how to keep this. This thing is unbelievable. And when you look at it, it's a little confusing. I mean, everyone's looking at these colors and lights and things that you have over here.
Right. Well, that's what I'd say. I don't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, trust me, I was a pure scalper. There's nothing more simplistic. I didn't have charts up back in the day when I made those millions of dollars. I was literally just trading off of the order flow, right? So the point is, it looks like there's a ton here. There's really not. All this is showing you where the event happened. Then you have the GEX levels. This stuff is just liquidity. That's just showing you the big orders in the order book and on the heat map, right? And then these other lines are basically just lines based off of so for instance, if I'm going to go along a position trade, I force these markets to move a full ATR and average true range, because that's the current volatility. Very, very important to understand that too. Again, this is all stuff you need to learn before you just hop in here and start trading these iceberg events, right? So I force this to come, if I'm going to go long my position trades here, I force this to push an ATR plus out of the zone. So if I'm getting long there, that's where I'm getting long, and my stop's all the way over here. This is the best way that I've determined over 8 years to avoid the algo. But the point is, what you're seeing here, all these lines are just based off of certain trades that we take off of the zone drawing, off of this stuff that's happening, right? The other big thing are we call them reversion trades. So that's the best thing to a scalp. And again, I used to do nothing but scalp, and it's not possible off the dome. I get so many traders texting me, emailing me, I want to trade off the dome. You cannot click as fast as a computer. If you know how to write programs, great. Stop trying to trade off of this. It's too hard. Again, I made millions doing it. You think there's a reason I'm not doing it anymore? Is because I like making millions of dollars. It's pretty damn hard, right? Almost impossible. So anyway, the best thing to a scalp that I've seen are what we call reversion trades, where these markets have a ridiculous propensity to snap back to these volume events, right? So you're like one in gold. It happened both ways and again, it doesn't matter what futures market you're looking at either. It doesn't have to be equities, right? So this was sell ice and gold. You see it hit the ATR, that's the blue line, right back to the zone. Hit the ATR, right back to the zone. So we have trades for that type of trade. So that's all that you're seeing here are my different areas where I'll enter trades or exits. But it's not that complicated. It's not complicated at all once you know what you're looking at, is my point.
And by the way, if anybody wants a demo of the book map, and also find out a little bit more, Scott, his website, we'll just give you guys, here's the link. I'm actually doing a free workshop on that too tomorrow. If you guys want to learn, basically that's the book map logo, whatever it is, you guys want to register for it. But there's Scott's link right there, by the way. If anyone's here is interested, we just posted it up there. He'll, if anyone's interested in futures, want to understand how to use futures and how to use this, before you ever consider jumping or downloading the software or whatever, he's just like me. You got to let someone explain to you in more detail. I mean, we're almost out of time here. And the thing is, we keep being for hours, if not days. You're not going to learn this in, an 30 minutes. You got to see it live. You got to see when he makes those call outs and everything else. Now, Scott, just really quick regarding about the trading. Now, when it comes to your, hold on, let me get this up here. A little problem like that. Okay, there we go. If somebody wanted to get started, what would you really recommend? Or there's so many people that trading for a while, they don't know where to start. What do you recommend them to do if they want to learn how to start learning how to trade, without blowing up their account?
As far as my method or overall?
No, just in anyone. I mean, once gets into the business.
Right. Well, you gotta find someone that knows what he's talking about, right? Everybody's an educator out there, right? But again, like you said, everybody who acts like they're educated, not everybody. Most people are trading from the right side of the chart after things have already occurred. Oh yeah, look at this trade. Wow, look how easy this one was. The real educators are the ones that do it live, or are showing you things while it's happening, right? Anyone can show you the right side of the chart. So find the proper mentor, right? And do your due diligence on them and research them and make sure they're legit. There's always going to be, a negative review. Like I've had a couple guys, some guys just don't get it, right? And you got a lot of pessimistic traders out there that have been through the ringer with educators that weren't really educators. So there's always some disgruntled people, right? You'll always see an occasional bad review, but look at the whole of the reviews or what you're looking for. And you can pretty much tell if a guy is legit or not, right? So that's first and foremost. So, again, if you want to learn this method, by the way, here's the buy ice that held the market. Shocker, shocker. But find someone that's legit, like someone like you that's been in the business for however many years, 20, 30 years.
I'm doing 35 years. I tell everyone too, like the reason why I wanted you to have on too is listen, I think you learn the most of, like if I wanted to play football, the coach that wanted to coach me, is not going to be a home ec teacher. He's a football player, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If I want to learn from I want to learn how to play baseball. I want to train my kid get baseball. The person I'm going to send him to and pay all this money is obviously was probably a professional player. Right. Or was just really good at it. Like we're market makers. We trade the floor. You know what I mean? Like we were there for the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we're still here. I think that's the most important because and I know, Scott, there are a lot of bad actors in this people. I don't even call them gurus. I call them influencers. You know what I mean? And they're just really good marketers. And unfortunately,
really good marketers.
Yeah, it's really good marketers. They just know social media and stuff like that. Because people always ask me, like, why do you have only, X amount and this person's got 10 times more than you? I'm like, listen, he's a great influencer. He's a good marketer. But when you really learn, he was a gym teacher. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
And he decided he learned how to, become build a great following. So,
right. Well, that's one of my weaknesses too. That's the thing. It's like I've got a niche, right? So first of all, like my expertise is not in social media. I just hired someone to do some YouTube shorts. I don't know what the hell I'm doing there, right? So I've got like 3,000 followers or 4,000 followers on Twitter, right? I've only got like 60, 70 people in my trade room. It's like, because I just have not that's not my expertise, and I'm not, I want to teach traders. That's the other thing too. I love educating because it makes me feel like I'm helping traders get back at the man that knocked me out of the game, right? So I'm teaching people how to read the manipulation, right? So all there is in here. So this is a zero-sum game. That's what traders need to realize. This nonsense, you see this flashing and the orders flashing. These guys are trying to take your money, right? So it brings me great joy to show traders like how the big money and the algos are trying to take their money, right? So that's first and foremost. And the other thing you want from an educator too, you want a guy that has, again, a niche, something different, right? It's not just same regurgitated nonsense. Oh, I'm going to buy this doji candle, and this is a lower high, so I'm going to get short. Not that there's not that's not relevant in certain instances, but you want an educator that has a different look on the market, right? And Dr. Brett talks about this all the time too. Like, you've got to be unique in kind of how you view the market. So find an educator that has, that knows what he's talking about, that does trade live, and then has a different aspect on the markets that most people don't see, right? So again, most traders are not even using Bookmap, right? So, I don't know how much longer. I think we got a good 5-10 years before this is like mainstream. So let's take advantage of it and the stop iceberg information. But you want to follow someone that is doing something a little differently, not just the same regurgitated nonsense, right? That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah. And also, like, trading with a group, you know what I mean? Like, listen, you trade on the floor, you learn from all the traders. I mean, like, it's more of a family. I always tell everybody, and it's always nice to, like you basically do exactly what I do. You teach, educate, purpose. If they're good, you know what I mean? It makes your life easier. And when you go on the trading floor, and you're trading, you kind of just, they might see something you might not see. I mean, you always learn it, and that's right. Also, you want to have a good core of friends out there that trade together. You don't want to be somebody that's negative, and you don't want to be someplace too big. Like, I've seen some of these people that have these trading rooms that they'll have like 500-600 people. And listen, I know you and I could probably do that if we really wanted to, but does that make you money? The person that's on the other side? Other than seeing all these people, it
just confuses them, right? It confuses them because there's so many cross currents of what people are seeing, and that's one of the rules in my trade room too. One, I want people that come in there to participate because then everyone benefits. Like you said, we're our own trading firm, but traders in my room are not allowed to post other things. They are only allowed to post. I mean, in my main room, I have a nonsense channel. They can post whatever they want in there as far as what they think they're seeing. But when you're posting in my main room, I want to see your take on, what strategy you're taking. Here, there's buy ice at the GEX level. We call it a sexy GEXy, whatever trade you're taking, but it has to be related to what we're doing, because I don't want traders confused on, well, what's that? I've never even heard of that. Oh, that's a Fibonacci retest. What is that? So that's what happens in these big trade rooms. You've got all these different people spouting out stuff. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about on top of it, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to be centralized into what you're teaching, or what I'm teaching in the rooms, and that helps people learn, obviously, the right stuff too.
Yeah. And everybody in the room wants to help each other too. I tell everyone that because listen, it's two heads are better than one. So that's, that's the model that you do, the same model that we do. And that's another way of finding, a good group of traders. And listen, sometimes it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, listen, I always tell everyone, if you're not getting it after 3 to 6 months, it's time to move on. You just find somebody else. It's like finding another doctor. You went to a doctor, you're not getting any better. You still need a doctor to take care of what's wrong with you. Just go find someone else. I mean, it's
right. Well, you need to figure out your trading personality, right? So again, I was a pure scalper. It is taking me years and years and years to be able to trade and hold on to trades and watch it come back 87 times before it finally goes where I think it's going to go, right? Most traders can't trade that way, or they don't want to. That's why it's so hard for them, because they're competing. If they want to be in and out because they can't stand sitting in trades, they're competing with you. Look at this algo in here, just whipsawing traders to death, right? So you have to figure out your personality, and most traders have to condition themselves to be a position trader, meaning holding for bigger moves. Again, I do have a scalp trade that trades for these moves back. That's the best thing, for that. The way to trade that, in my opinion, is scalp nowadays. But the point is, you have to figure out what type of trader you are and what you mentally, because if you can't stand sitting in trades, you cannot be a position trader. You'll never make it. You'll be put in a loony bin before you figure it out, right? Because you just can't handle this. Like, how many traders here, by the way, that just because I showed this buy ice, they went long, right? Even though that's not the way to trade it. for most of my strategies, but they're in right now and they're like, oh, I went long. I thought I had, oh my God, I got to get out now, right? Like this means nothing most of the time, unless this violates, again, an ATR this way. If I got long right here, I'd still be in this trade. So most traders can't handle that, right? They can't handle, you get in, get in there, get out there, and then let the market do what it's going to do. Because you got to remember, these jackasses here that are playing games with everybody, stealing your money, whipsawing, they can see just like we can see there's nothing going on right now, right? So this is the time of day where they start to mess with the markets between 10:30 and 12:30 Central. That's when the games start being played because the big money starts to go to lunch. New York goes first, then Chicago. And this is how I know, because back in the day, I had a big guy that ran me out of the business. He was one of the reasons
I say it all the time, Scott.
Right.
I say it all the time.
So that if you know that, then, again, they see this, and now here we go. Let's start whipsawing traders to death. So this may go up, it probably will. It's got a higher, I shouldn't say probably, it's got a higher percent chance of going up than down just because big money was buying here. But you may have to sit, if you're long right now, you may have to maybe sit through this nonsense for the next 2 hours because it's game time, right? So that's all stuff you need to realize to keep your mental sanity. And trust me, I have day, and I'm on a period right now too where I'm losing my mind too, especially this hero stuff, right? So it's like I put on a trade there. I know damn well not to do that. I got sidetracked by this webinar. I just put in my trade room in the Twitter post yesterday, don't trade at this time, and then I take a position and I lose on it, right? So it's like trading is so mental, and you've got to really monitor this.
Look at this. I built a mouse pad. When to trade, when not to trade.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
You know what I mean? It's just like, right in the middle of the day, just stop and stuff like that. And it was funny. I was on a panel at a trade show, and I was going at it. It was like four people on the panel as an analyst, and one guy was saying, "Don't ever trade the first hour. Don't ever trade. You got to wait until like 2 or 3 hours later." And I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, and he contradict everything I said. And he's like, he's a really smart guy, and he sounded very smart, and I'm old school Italian, street, I didn't go to school for this. I know you didn't go to school. We learned by taking on that job and learn the hard of it. So this guy use all those analogies and everything like that. And you know why he said it? Because his indicators didn't kick in yet. And that's why people get it. So comment to everyone. If anyone ever tells you, don't trade until after 10:30, 11 o'clock Eastern, the reason why, because their indicators didn't kick in to tell them. And that's why they always sound right. They're always right. The problem is, by the time it's right, it's already too late. That's what I always tell everybody. The thing already made its move. Exactly. So, Scott Pulcini, thank you so much for being here. I think everyone really enjoyed what you had to say. It's great to have another market maker on here to explain, to look at the other side of the different exchanges. Like I was more of the active day trader, scalper, like you mentioned. I know we had a lot in common. We use the same kind of platform. And I think people, I had someone that really came and talked about futures that much. So if everyone's interested on the futures part about it, want to know a little bit more about Scott's Trading Room, please make sure you click on that link. Register for his upcoming event. I think, listen, even if you're a student of mine, it's always nice to learn a little bit so you understand when you have a conversation with someone, you understand why you would trade futures or not trade futures or how the futures market is even working, just like on equities. All right. Any last minute words that you want to give, any advice you want to give any of the traders before we go?
Well, one, I have my trade room that go to the scalpelscenetrader.com. I do this live twice a day, most days. The afternoons have been terrible lately, but always in the morning. And then if you want to just kind of see what I do in my trade room, I do a book map live trading webinar every Thursday at 9 a.m. Central. So you can come by on Thursday. That's tomorrow, obviously. So just come by, go to the book map YouTube, and you can watch. I'll trade live there as well. But other than that, my main thing is, again, you guys, you can be successful traders without this information. But I'm just telling you, you do not have all the information, and you want to know where this stuff's occurring. You want to know what's going on with the options flow. If you don't, you're just flying blind, right? What you don't know is what you don't know. But you will be, if you're a successful trader now without this information, if you add this information in your trading, I will bet you're 10 times more successful.
And I'll be doing a webinar tomorrow myself on the level 4 too, on the book map. I'll show you a little bit more. So you could also use that if you have your phone. Take your phone, you can scan that QR code, and I'll be doing an event also, and we'll also give you contact information to Scott. So if you want to be able to get in there, so take your phone, scan the QR code, Just put your name and email, and that's all you have to do, and we'll get you registered. Scott, thanks for being here, and let everybody know we will be making some quick highlights of this as usual. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We'll give you some. We'll give you some nice shorts. We'll give you the long version. It'll be up later on today. And all we ask is just like it, share it, and make sure you follow us. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you back here next week for another episode at Cyber Traders. And next week, just to let you know, we're going to have a student on here. We're going to talk about the success of our students, and we're going to have one of our students on here. It's going to on the podcast tell you a little bit about the experience, what he went through, and why he got here and where he is today. Thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you next week.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Prior CL disqualified.